2005 is, varying his coverages, still being extremely aggressive at times. And, his background as a player and a coach, we've seen what he's done the last couple of years in Toronto and bringing a little bit more stability, especially in the back end of our defense.
And just a final one for me. Looking back on how the season ended and where you guys want to improve, what's kind of been the reflection from yourself on how the season ended?
Yeah, obviously for me, the loss was not what I expected, and took a little while to kind of comprehend and get through and dive deeper in that. And there was a lot of positives throughout the year, but at the end of the day, we got to make sure that we put our best performance on it every time. And I think that's one of the big things that we focus on is making sure we're consistently doing the right things the right way. And so consistency is going to be a big target for us. But the great thing is these guys have a great understanding of that they can step in and beat every team in this league. And we just got to make sure we're ready to perform at the key times.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next question is from Frank Stanici. Please go ahead, Frank.
Thanks for doing this, Bob.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, we talk about football in the Canadian Football League, is around the quarterback. The quarterback dictates. Now you got your second year, Drew Brown. Speak to his progress and how you see him improving his game.
Yeah, Drew did. He started off well, and it's a lot, right? He had a great relationship over there in Winnipeg, and then coming in with a new offensive coordinator, new teammates. But the great thing about Drew is he's always constant and consistent in his approach to the game. So building a strong relationship with not only the quarterbacks in the room and the receivers around them, but with Tommy. One of the things that was great was to see their relationship grow. And, it's about challenging each other and making sure we're getting the best version of everybody. And Drew always pushes himself to do that. And so as the year went on, one of the great things to see about him was even allowing his teammates to see who the true Drew was. And bring even a little more emotion into his game. He's never going to change his approach. He's very direct and focused in his attack of the week's process. But on game day, I think, one of the things in that his teammates loved was seeing the emotion that he does have play with, and he let that show a little bit. As a player, he continued to get more and more comfortable in Tommy's offense with the receivers around him. And that's what we got to continue to build on. As he and I talked at the end of the season, we've got to make sure we start where we ended up. We don't have time to work backwards. We've got to continue moving forward.
Having seen him get injured and know the effect it had on your team, how important is it now to have him remain upright?
Well, I think that's any quarterback in this league, right? We know how valuable your starters are, and that's always going to be the goal of us as coaches and how we scheme things and, in protections and how we do things to make sure that we have Drew for 18 games.
Thank you for doing this.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Frank. Next question is from Jeff Hamilton. Please go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Bobby, I was actually curious about the same thing. Is there anything that you can do in regards to Drew Brown? I think of hockey when a player joined, obviously Drew's been in the league for a bit now, but in hockey where a player turns his back to the opponent too often, right? That puts himself in harm's way. And I know that football is a dangerous game. It's a violent game, and quarterbacks are going to be susceptible to hits. But is there anything that Drew, as he evolves as a starting quarterback, is there anything that you've asked him or anything that he can do to ensure that he's not putting himself in harm's way?
Yeah, no, I think when you look at the injuries that Drew suffered this year, it wasn't a matter of being a part of how he plays. Regrettably, sometimes they're going to happen. I'm never going to ask the quarterback, hey, don't run or don't do things like that. I want them to be aggressive and play their style. Drew didn't get hurt on those types of plays. Sometimes, there's going to be a breakdown in protection, and, there's a lot of big bodies down by low by the ankles, and that was probably the big one that got him. What I asked Drew to do is do the things that he does best, and if we got something that's scheduled and ball get out on time, I know he's going to do that, and he's going to do his best to do that. So not really looking for him to change his game. Like I said, we want to be sound around him, make sure we're getting open early so the ball can be out of his hand, and make sure we're solid in our protections.
I got to ask you about the hiring of Rick Campbell. I know, Bobby, that you are a confident man.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of men in your position who would hire a former head coach of the exact same organization as his assistant. Some might even suggest he would be a natural progression for a head coach, right? I'm just curious about the decision. Obviously, is it a matter of bringing good people in that can do the job well?
100%. Here's the thing. Rick brought me here into Ottawa, right? And he and I obviously have a relationship. And for me, the biggest thing is what my mandate is for this team to win a Grey Cup. And I'm going to surround myself with the best people possible. I don't worry about situations of, well, he could do this or he could do that. That's not how I live my life. I live my life about, hey, I believe in players first off. I believe in the men around me, and that if we're of one goal, you know what, we're going to be successful. At the end of the day, when we are successful, it's going to be good for Rick, and it's going to be good for me. And so, like I said, I don't worry. If you think that way, you're thinking about you're scared. Nah, that's not the way I live my life.
Didn't think it was. Thanks, Bobby.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. Next questions from JC Abbott. Please go ahead, JC.
Hey, Bob, JC Abbott, 3 Down Nation. Just want to ask you about the addition of William Stanback to your roster, and what does that mean for Devontae Williams going forward?
It means that we've got two very talented backs. You know what I mean? They both play different styles of the game. You know, when you look at Devontae, I mean, two totally different body types. Williams, big physical guy, can work downhill and be in between the tackles and really lean on people. One of the big things for me is, as you look at how we were as an offense, it's important for us to be consistent in running the ball. And having a big back like that on the field at times will be fantastic for us, getting physical and letting the offensive linemen lean on the guys and not sit back and have to worry about being pass protection all the time. Whereas as we saw in 2023, Devontae is probably one of the most exciting and explosive players in this league. And so the onus is on us to make sure that we work the roster properly so that we can have two dynamic players on the field and, make us even that much more dangerous offensively.
Obviously, we didn't get a chance to see Devontae last year. Are you
Yep.
expecting that he's fully healthy for training camp? What's his status right now?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're hoping on. Is we're hoping. I talked. It was funny because I had talked to him probably a day before William had gotten released, and obviously had no idea with regards to that situation. But yeah, I was talking to him about seeing where he's at, and he's excited to be back. He's working hard back at home, and so yeah, so it really gives us maybe a dynamic duo.
You mentioned most exciting players in the CFL there. I think on the short list of that would be Khalil Pimpleton. Had, I think, 4 NFL workouts, but hasn't signed a contract yet. What are your expectations in terms of whether or not he's going to be with your team next season or south of the border?
Those are things that Khalil will have to work out, and those are things that the teams down there will have to work out. In all my contact with Khalil, I know he's excited to be a Red Black, and if the opportunity doesn't arrive for him to go down there, then he'll be back with us. As well, I'm not saying that he would take every opportunity. I think it has to be the right opportunity for him to leave. I think, Khalil's really liked his time here. I think he's got, may want to make his mark here before he pursues other things. But at the end of the day, I always support these guys because it is a lifestyle changing opportunity that if they decide to go, they've got nothing but my support. But if he's here, I'll be super excited to see him be as dynamic as he was last season, or even better.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
Thank you, JC. Next question is from Don Brennan. Please go ahead, Don.
Hi, Bob. I wasn't even aware that my hand was still up. And of course these sharp reporters are ahead of me, ask questions that I wanted to ask. But there's another one. I just want to see where you are with your coaching staff now. Is it all in place for the upcoming season? Like, is Greg Marshall back and everybody?
Well, yeah,
In there?
predominant. Yeah, sorry, Don. Sorry to cut you off. Predominantly,
No.
everything's uh, coming in. After this weekend down here is a great opportunity where you run into a lot of coaches, right? And so, just finalizing some things down here. I'm sure we'll get right back to you in Ottawa. You'll be one of the first people to know once everything is finalized.
You've re-signed a few players over the last week or so, and up till today with Bladek resigning or being announced as resigning. I guess, how important is it for you to bring as many of these guys back to continue what you're working on?
Well, it's very, Don, one of the things we talk about is consistency and continuity, right? Um, a lot of these guys, some of them have tasted, they had a little sour taste in their mouth from last year, but some of these guys performed well. And we want to make sure, as I said earlier, that we continue and start from a point of head of where we did last year. And big part of that, I mean, you look at the teams that are successful in this league, a team like Winnipeg that, doesn't have a lot of roster turnover. They're able to bring the key components back to allow them to be successful and start fast. And that's exactly what we want to do. Sean and the personnel department's done a fantastic job in getting these guys done. So, there's always going to be change, and, we're going to be down getting into free agency here in a couple of days. But it really, really important to get some of the foundation done as we move forward.
Thanks very much, Bob.
Thank you, Don. Good seeing your face.
Thank you, Don. Next question is from John Odge. Please go ahead, John.
Hey, Bob. John Odge, 3 Down Nation. Hope you're doing well. I wanted to ask you about your backup quarterback situation. Jeremiah Masoli, pending free agent. Dustin Crum, pending free agent. Do you want to have an experienced hand like Jeremiah behind Drew? Do you want to have somebody more athletic like a Dustin Crum, or where do you see that position currently standing?
Well, in our league, you're talking to me about Drew and staying healthy, and ideally he plays 18 games for us, and that's all we end up having to worry about. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you'd like to have a little experience in behind them, and as well some youth. And so it's making sure you got a right combination at your 2 and 3. You have to make sure that it's funny, Brendan Taman always says, and Sean says, maybe the most important thing is your number 2 in case something happens to your number 1. You got to make sure that they're able to maintain and carry the team for another 3 games till your guy gets back, or however long he is. So we want to make sure we got some experience there. And then at the number 3 spot, CFL's interesting league. And, when you talk about making sure you got a mobile guy, whether it be a guy who's handling your quarterback sneaks and whatnot, but at the same time, when you look at Dustin's done a really good job. And I looked at last year as a growth year for him. The 2 coordinators he worked with are totally different. And I think he grew in watching him in practice. So we'll see what happens with him, and then go forward from there. Tyree's still in the building as well. And so, we're getting together for free agency here just in a couple of days, and we'll finalize decisions and what way we're going then.
I wanted to ask you about Dante Bull, first-round pick in 2023. Started some games for you as a rookie. Didn't play very much this past year. What are you looking for him as he goes into year 3?
Well, it's fine. I'm looking for him to take a step up. We all know some offensive linemen take a little longer to get going. I look at the development of Zach Pelios, taking the year before Dante, almost in a similar type spot. And Zach had a phenomenal year. And that's what I'm looking for from Dante. Going into your 3rd year, we need to see some growth from him, and he needs to be competing, whether it be for a starting spot or the sixth man spot. I'm excited in the fact that I know he went home or he stayed in Ottawa this offseason, and he's working hard and he's able to work with some of his teammates and put in the work that's needed in the offseason. So I'm looking forward to seeing him come back and compete and try and work his way into the rotation.
Last one for me. This might be a better question for a year or two from now, but with the changes that are coming up at Lansdowne and the facility, I'm wondering, as head coach, do you have any concerns about the logistics of construction happening nearby or anything like that?
I'll tell you what, end of the day, worried about this season and making sure we take care of business. All that stuff will take care of us. We got a fantastic ownership. We got a fantastic management with Sean. They're never going to put us in a position where we are disadvantaged by work around the stadium. You know, at the end of the day, life's full of different challenges that you have to face. So we know there's going to be challenges in that regard, but they're never going to. I know our ownership and our management are never going to put us in a position that's going to help inhibit what we do on the field. So it's not a great concern for me at all.
Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
Thank you, John. Next question is from Derek Taylor. Please go ahead, Derek.
Bob, I'm sure you saw the news. The Elks signed a hot young head coach or a hot young coach named Tristan Dyce. I'm curious what it's like watching him go into year number 5 as a CFL coach.
You know, it's funny, Derek. Nice to see you. It's great. Obviously, I'm very proud of him, right? At the end of the day, this is a tough business, and he had a couple opportunities, maybe even 3 to look at once he became free from Vancouver, and to see the fact that there's people out there who valued what he does and what he brings to an organization obviously makes me very proud. And I thought it was good for him to go through an off season where, you know, there's a little bit of uncertainty, right? Because that's a big part of this business, and he had a pretty stable flow there for a number of years, and it was good to let him see the other side of the business and help him grow in that regard. So we had a lot of conversations with that regards. You know, it's funny. He and I just finished driving this car back from Vancouver through the mountains of Missoula in the middle of January, which I don't advise to anybody. But it gave us 5 days to spend with each other. And, you know, probably the biggest thing for me is like when I hear him talk or we're sitting and watching a game and how analytical he thinks of everything and his growth in that regard. I mean, he's always been a student of the game, but when I listen now and he's not just like a fan or anything like that, but he's thinking situationally, everything that he's doing and he's analyzing. It was just fantastic. So I have to say I love it, and I hope it continues on for many more years, and hope he puts me on his staff when he's a head coach and I'm about 70.
I was going to say, do you look forward to a time where you might work together on the same staff and work together on a daily basis? Or I don't know your guys' relationship. Maybe it's best that you don't see each other 12 hours a day every day.
Yeah, no, I think I think that would be something that I think would be fantastic. You know, really, I can tell you, for right now, I think it's really important for him to spread his wing and make contacts with other coaches in the league, and do those things and solidify them on other staffs. You know, coming here in a couple of years, maybe we'll get that opportunity to work together. And I think it would be fantastic. We had a great relationship. Like I said, we had 5 days together in the car, and that's sleeping in the same hotel room, driving in the same car all day, and no fights, anything like that. Lots of laughs.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you, Derek, and thank you, Coach.